Hello, everyone, and welcome to Boss Talks. We have a great show for you today. Episode 74 of Boss Talks with Ashley Jenkins out of Texas. She is 24 years old and just killing it at what she's doing. She was awarded the 20 in their 20s at NAA last year, Apartmentalize. And that is where I got to meet her through another guest that I had last year, Libby, out here in Seattle. They met because they were both on that, or both were honored with that. And they had never met before, but they hung out, I think, for most of Apartmentalize there forward. So I had the great opportunity to meet Ashley on the phone thereafter and heard a little bit about her story and how she got to where she is now. And I must say, it's a great story, and I'm excited to share that with you guys and have her speak on that. So we will definitely get there. And I mean, for how young she is, she's done quite a lot. So there's a lot to unpack and a lot to explore and just celebrate with what she's done. But before we get there, I'm Evan Happel. I'm your host. I'm with Community Boss, and we have a great prop tech or software solution that helps you manage the physical spaces of your community, making it a great place to live for your residents and easier for you to manage. So we help you with your parking, your amenities, your mapping, and also just generating revenue and fairness across the whole community. So if you have any questions, by all means, reach out to me, and I'd love to help you in that way. But today, it's about Ashley, so let's bring her to the show. Ashley, thanks for being here.
Evan, thank you so much for having me. It's a blessing and an honor to be here.
Yeah, I mean, when I talked to you before, it is kind of surprising that you're 24. I will say, because the way you
Believe
carry
it or not.
yourself and talk and everything, you seem more mature than I think I was when I was 24. I don't know.
Well, I like to say that I got it all out of my system whenever I was a teenager. But I appreciate you saying that. It's definitely a shocker to a lot of people whenever I tell them my age. They're asking me for my license. They say, "No way, prove it." But it's just one of those things that you develop in this business, I suppose.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. And we're going to get into a few topics that you have outlined of being passions of yours. But before we get there, I want to just kick it off with a few questions of my own. So, first one I like to ask is, when it comes to building community in a professional and or personal setting, how do you go about that?
Evan, and that's a great question. I mean, community to me is just so important because this is the place that I live. This is the place that my family lives and, future children as well. And so I've always found it really important to give back to the community with my time. For everybody, time is finite. I volunteer with our local crisis intervention unit here in Midland to help families that are experiencing crises. So that's how I build community personally, is just by volunteering time and just spending time with the community, getting involved, what events are going on out here. And then that kind of translates also to professionally, just being involved with our industry, meeting people, and you never know who you can meet, who's going to introduce you to somebody. Just like you mentioned, Libby, wonderful young lady, I met her in their 20s, introduces me to you at Apartmentalize, and just making those connections and seeing how those connections can support others has always been a big value of mine.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, thanks for sharing about that. And then when it comes to hospitality, having somebody over to your home for a meal, um, how do you convey that through food? What would you
Their
do for them?
food.
Yeah.
Their food. Well, I am a Southern girl. Shout out to Texas. And so, they always say that we have that Southern hospitality. And this was something that had just come up. I was having a friend over for dinner, and we had just, I was trying to figure out what can I make for them. So when I am having somebody over for dinner, it's number one, who is it? Do they have a favorite food? Is there something particular that they're craving? So I always want to find out from the person what they would like. But if it's just a generic somebody coming over, I want to cook a meat like a chicken or a steak, a vegetable, asparagus, broccoli. I like to have a starch or a bread. So think mashed potatoes or a loaf of bread, Texas toast, some garlic toast, phenomenal. And then I always like to pair it with the pasta. And the reason why I go through those 4 items is in the event that that person is not happy with meat, there's vegetables and pasta that will keep them full. If they're not really a, bread person, then there's something that they will have to leave full. I would rather have 6 days worth of leftovers than somebody leave my house hungry. And then at the end, we're obviously going to have some cake, preferably cheesecake, but you know me, it's going to be store-bought cake because I'm a good cook, but I'm not an excellent baker.
Hey, I love me a cheesecake, and I don't care who made it. So I did try my hand at making a cheesecake when I was younger, and it turned out pretty good. I think I was in high school. I learned how to make cheesecake and gourmet foods. It was a class I took. But yeah, it was tasty. But yeah, cheesecake is one of my favorites for sure.
And it got even simpler when they came out with the no bake cheesecake. It's 3 ingredients: cream cheese, some Cool Whip, and sugar. And so you can always go with a no bake, because if you go to the Cheesecake Factory and you start looking at the nutrition facts, you're just going to hurt your own feelings.
Yeah, when you go there, you don't look at that. That is the
No.
rule. Like
Weekend calories don't
you,
count.
yeah, and when you go to Cheesecake Factory, you're leaving. You ate a few thousand calories for sure. Not only are their portions gigantic, then the cheesecake kills you at the end. But I mean, that's okay. But your meal sounds delicious. Megan, she's really digging your Texas toast. So one of the people watching. And if you don't see it, I should have pointed out comments on the right hand side. You can click that. Maybe on your phone, it's a little different, but you should be able to see it on your phone as well. Maybe an option. So there are some people watching. Hopefully that pops up for you there too. All right.
I'm not seeing
So
it
and
on
then
my end, but welcome.
okay. And then finally, when it comes to your caffeinated beverage of choice, what is your go-to?
Let's see. The quick answer to that is yes. Anything that has to do with
Yes.
caffeine, I'm your
That's
girl
great.
for that. I like to say that I'm a big coffee drinker. So I have my morning coffee, afternoon coffee, afternoon coffee. And so my go-to 90% of the time is going to be an iced vanilla latte. I don't care where it comes from. Vanilla is vanilla and ice is ice. And then, there's a lot of days where I'll just go with a straight black cup of black coffee. But I did end up coming across these protein shakes that have caffeine in them and lots of lots of vitamins and nutrition, and those have tasted great because they taste like coffee. But on a
Uh-huh.
day-to-day, I'm definitely iced vanilla latte.
All right. Nice. All right. Kind of simple, but I mean, you can't really go wrong. I enjoy vanilla. Vanilla's a good flavor.
Well, I've worked in a Starbucks way back in the day whenever I was a teenager, so I got to experiment with all the concoctions, adding 60 different syrups to one drink, or just experimenting. And so despite having tried all of those, I like to keep it simple in life.
Yeah. Yeah. Simple is good. I mean, you try everything and you're like, you know what? Vanilla still is delicious. They call people like that don't like variety the vanilla whatever, vanilla kid, whatever. And it's like, well, but vanilla's not bad. So
It's a staple. It's a staple.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like the
vanilla ice
chicken
cream.
of coffee drinks.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I like chicken. Yeah, well, chicken's good too. All right. Well, thank you for answering. And then at this point, what I really want to do is just start off with your story. I think that's a great place to start and let people know in your short life the amount of life you've lived, because you've had some obstacles that you've overcome, and I just love to unpack that a little bit and let you share that about yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you, Evan. It's definitely been a wild ride. And if you would have asked me 5 years ago where I would be in 5 years, this is probably not even on the top 20 list of things where I would have seen myself. And 5 years ago, I had just moved out to Midland, Texas. I was 18 years old. Matter of fact, I moved out maybe the week or month after I turned 18. And I, at that point, had dropped out of high school. I had decided that it was more important to make money, to pay my rent, put food on my table. And so I decided that education, it's just a piece of paper. Nobody's ever going to care about it. That was my mindset at 18 years old, which was a very poor mindset in retrospect, but that was my mindset. And at one point, I'm working 2 minimum wage jobs. By day, I am a tire technician for Discount Tire. So I was the person that you would come to, and I actually fixed the flats, put them back on your car. And so I always told myself, I don't know how to fix a tire, but I'm going to get paid to learn. So that's what I did by day. And by evening time, I was a coach for gymnastics. So I taught young kids gymnastics, and I was actually coaching one day back in 2018, and just something was changing. There was we were doing a trampoline coachings, and I had my 5-year-olds, and this one young lady, she just couldn't quite understand the jump. And if you have ever taught kids or know anything about kids, they're more visual learners. You can't just tell them what to do. And I got up on the trampoline that day to demonstrate, and whenever I came down from my jump, I fell, broke my leg, and I knew in that moment that I didn't have a job anymore. Not for any other reason, but both of my jobs were very physical. It was not a desk job. And I just remember sitting there thinking, what now? Like, what's next for me? And I was living in an apartment, my very first apartment, 400 square foot, no light, no central lighting, had to plug in a lamp kind of apartment. And I went down to my leasing office to go pick up a package, and the property manager there, I had spoken with her a couple of times, but never really had any further interactions, just hey, how are you doing? She sees me there on crutches, and she offers to help me carry out my package, which was greatly appreciated. And right before we both got in our vehicles to left, she looks at me and says, Ashley, how would you like to be my leasing agent? I said, I don't know what that is, but okay. And that's the truth, Evan. I didn't really know too much about what it was to be a leasing agent other than they work at the desk. And I always considered myself as not a desk girl. See how that worked out for me. And so it was a pretty mutual decision that I was going to work for her for 3 months. Then she could replace me with somebody she actually wanted to put in that leasing position. And 3 months came and gone. And I was still there. She still wanted me to be there. And I asked her if it was okay if I stayed. And she said, we'd love that. And the owner had come down. They wanted to train me up to be a property manager. But he looked at me and he said, Ashley, how could I trust my company, my legacy, my life's work to somebody who hasn't even graduated high school? Because I hadn't gone back at that. I hadn't gone back at that point. I said, okay. And I went back. I graduated. I have actually started taking, college courses. But to me, that was the beauty of this industry, that I could go from nothing, no experience, high school dropout, to, being recognized this last year in the 20 in their 20s. And this story meant so much to me, because while I was sitting up at the desk in my leasing office one day, a magazine had come in. It was a units magazine. And I remember flipping through a couple of pages, not knowing what it was. And I flipped to a page, and it was the 20 in their 20s from maybe 2019 or, maybe around 2019. And I was looking at these people and said, wow, how do I become somebody like that? And then in 2023, it happened, and this industry has just given so much to, me and my family. It's like, it's crazy. Not everybody's doing it.
Yeah. And what are some of the things between 2019 and now that have, like, opportunities that have come your way, or did you just take it upon yourself, like, I want to be in that position?
So, I knew that once I got into the industry, I could not stay complacent as a leasing agent. And so I always sought out the opportunities. So at the initial company I was working with, it was a private owner. There really was an opportunity. Like, we didn't know what their regional managers, never heard of those. Vice presidents, nope. It went, leasing agent, property manager, owner. That was the chain of command right there. And then I start looking at these other property management companies, and I was so enamored and fascinated by the technologies that they had. Their website was just miles ahead of what our website looked like. I don't even know if we even have a property website. And so just being so enamored by these companies, I wanted to get in with an actual property management company. And the worst somebody can say is no. So middle of COVID, May 2020, I see an Indeed posting for a property manager. It's a small 180 community out in Odessa, Texas. And so I remember thinking, I'm not enough for this. I don't have any property manager experience. And so I said, you know what? I'm not the one who's going to allow me to say no. Let them tell me no. But you know what, Evan? It didn't happen. They said yes. I became a property manager for the first time. It was a Class C asset, 180 units, and that's where I cut my teeth. And I was so grateful to learn, what is NOI? What is a budget? What do you mean you can't just pay for something on a card and call the owner and tell them you bought it?
Right. Yeah. No, that's great that I mean, you stepped out and put yourself out there, and you were anticipating that maybe you wouldn't get it, but you did. So that's great that you just took that step of faith and just bet on yourself and put yourself in positions where you can grow and learn and to ultimately get to the place of being recognized. Now, how did you get to that point? How did you
For
get to the point of
the recognition. So number one, I applied, and that's what I want to, that's just what I want to say is, you miss 100% of the opportunities that you don't take. You have to be okay with people telling you no. You have to be okay. You get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? So it was a very uncomfortable thing. They asked me to record a video in 2019 or 2020, whenever I applied the first time. They told me no, that's okay. I was so scared of the video anyway. Then in 2020, so 2022, I ended up at a larger asset. It was a Class B property, 278 units. And this property was a tough property. It had a lot of unique maintenance challenges. For example, there were water heaters in the attic, which not a great design plan. So in 1980s built property, they put the water heaters up in the attic, which is great. They wanted to save amenity space for the residents. However, 20 years later, when they start rupturing, I'm sure you could imagine what it would be like to go and replace those and what kind of damage it caused to residents. And working at a 1980s built property, that's what I did from 2019 up until 2023. And while I was at this property, one of the things that I had experienced was the mix match of appliances. So, I would see appliances that were almond, some white, some black. We would have to transfer appliances from one apartment to another. And just the record keeping of this was just very difficult, because you would have scopes from, 4 decades across this property, some original ones from the 1980s, one from 2022, brand new. And so what I had done is I had created and developed a software with a company that would be like an appliance tracker that would track the color, model number, serial number, PO number, and be able to comfortably move these to different apartments while also managing the assets for our owners. It's important. You spend, think about your house. You have a fridge, a stove, dishwasher, if one of those goes missing and you have to replace it, that's a pretty penny. And if
Yeah.
you multiply that on a bigger scale, if something happens and, we're not being vigilant about it, it could end up costing the property and the owners a lot of money. So I had worked with this development software, and we created this program called Appliance Manager that was very specific to just this property. And, I'm not a software person. I can do control, copy, and paste, and I feel so cool when I do, control plus CV. But other than that, I have no software experience, but I wanted to find a unique need, or I'm sorry, a unique solution to this problem. And that's what it ended up looking like, was that everybody would have access to the shared program. You would be able to search the apartment and inventory by the, by the model number, by the serial number, figure out the history, where it's gone, where it's been. And that's what we had developed. And I wrote that in the essay for the 20 in their 20s. And that's how I ended up there, I believe.
That's awesome. So how did you come up with that idea?
And that's a great story in itself too, Evan. I'm sitting on a plane. I'm coming back from Las Vegas for a leadership conference that I had with the company. And it wasn't a great day. Not naming any names, but a certain flight company had delayed our flights, actually canceled our flights, our direct flight back from Las Vegas to Midland. And I just remember sitting there thinking, what am I going to do with all of this extra time? Now I have a 6-hour layover in Dallas, and it's only, I can just drive at this point. And I remember just being so inspired by that leadership conference to do more, to become more, and, just make a impactful change, that I had this notebook that I got from the conference, and I just started jotting down this idea. What would it look like? So it went to paper, and I'm writing it down. What would this look like? What would the tabs look like? How would this function? What would be the importance of it? And I remember sitting there on the plane jotting this down, and I'll tell you, it's funny. I was sitting right next to the director of that flying company, the one that had canceled our flight. I actually ended up sitting next to the director. Wonderful guy, but it was very funny. And I'm just sitting there jotting down in my notebook. I called a software company and said, hey, can you make this come to life? And they said, for a small fee, absolutely. And they did. And, it definitely needed some kinks, but it was just the idea of it coming to life. And then I think I found out later on that something like that already slightly existed. But just wanting to solve that problem was important to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's great. So do you guys still use that, what you created, or have you started using like something that was made specifically?
I had actually made a transition to a luxury asset just recently, and so it's not applicable to where I'm at, but it would still be, it would still be functional. It was actually built specifically for that property and that property only.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be useful over here, but somebody still could log in and potentially use it if they wanted to.
Well, nonetheless, good job. Way to problem solve and figure out a way to solve something that, like you said, could cost a lot of money if you misplace things, or
That's
you don't know where the different
my unofficial job title of it. I'm a professional problem solver. That's what property management is. You never know what's going to walk through that door.
Oh, yeah, no, that's true. And that means, and that is run the gamut on topic too, right? Like property manager means, and I talk to a lot of different property managers, and every time it's like you're a counselor, you're a salesperson, you're a de facto friend. Like you're the person that's in the office, and you just have to be ready for the lonely person that comes in and wants to tell you their life story. So I know exactly what it's like.
And they can absolutely do that. I'll just have to block it out on my calendar, and then Susie from 302 can come right on into my office and they can tell me all about it.
Oh, they'll do it regardless of setting the time. I know that for a fact.
Well, and and that's the thing is, and I learned that very quickly in this business. Starting as a leasing agent, you're the first person that residents come in and speak with, and they come in hot and heavy with the energy, the anger, whatever it is, they come in hot and heavy, and I always felt at the beginning just so inadequate because I didn't have the knowledge to solve their problems because I thought that's what it was about, was solving the problem. But then as I grew up in the industry, I started realizing that people don't always want you to solve their problems. Sometimes they just want to be heard. Sometimes
Mhm.
they want advice. Sometimes they want a solution. And being able to navigate and know the difference makes all of the difference. A lot, and I'm going to tell you, 90% of the time, people just want to be heard.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's just true in general about people, I think. It's good. It's a good relationship advice you gave right there.
That's one of my other hats. I'm a relationship coach now.
Okay. All right. I mean, to a degree, you find out if you enjoy that, and definitely could, right? Based on all the different personalities and people, and you get the gamut. Especially if you go from different types of communities. You got luxury, you got ABC, all the different styles, and it attracts different people, and so yeah, you definitely
Well, and it's been really interesting navigating through class A through C assets. And, my
Mhm.
reasoning for that is eventually I want to take my career to the next level. I want to be a regional I'm going to be a regional manager, speak it into existence, a
There you
regional
go.
manager or an area manager. And I feel the best way to prepare myself is to have experience on all of these different assets because it's not the same. The
Right.
preparation and maintenance at these properties are not the same. The interactions with residents are not the same. The emergencies at these assets are not the same. And just being if I can navigate it boots on the ground, then I should have no problem, you know, being a regional over those when my time comes.
Absolutely. And I think based on your age, you have plenty of time to get there. But I think you're gonna get there sooner than later. I don't think it's gonna be a super long time, but you're headed in the right direction. So I will say that. I think
Thank you.
you're gonna be successful beyond where you are even now. So I just wanted to hit on some of the topics that you brought up, unless there's something more you want to speak about when it comes to your personal story. Any other details or anything that you left out and you want to share? You obviously, it's your show and your time to shine. So,
No, Evan, take it away.
all right. So your first topic that you brought up was the multifamily industry is boundless, and it is what you make of it. And we shared that through your story a little bit, but what have you seen when it comes to that? Both people that take advantage of that and realize that, and those that don't. And why is it do you think that some people realize that and others do
And that's a great question. The By this industry being boundless, I mean, a lot of people think that you have to go from leasing agent to assistant manager, like there's just only one track path. But when you
not? Right.
start looking at the broader things that make up this industry, there's the vendor side, there's the HR side, there's the marketing departments, there's so many different facets of this industry that statistically speaking, you will find a place somewhere. And being able to look at the broader scheme of that, I think is really what sets the difference. And also recognizing that you have to start somewhere.
Mhm.
You have to be okay starting at the bottom and moving up. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people maybe aren't comfortable with is, starting as a leasing consultant, starting as a groundskeeper, starting as a housekeeper, entry level positions because they don't see the growth opportunity. And so I think it's really just a mindset. Are you willing to start at point A to get to point B?
Mhm. Right. And then ultimately to point Z or whatever, right? Like there's all like you said, there's a lot of different um avenues, And I do think you're right. So many people get stuck in the mindset of like, my only next step is regional. And I've had other people on the show is like they thought that was the next step.
Mhm.
They took that step and they decided that was the wrong step. Like they decided that that position wasn't good for them,
Mhm.
but that this industry was still good for them, and they've figured out their place in the industry. So what you're saying is right. Like you don't have to necessarily just go with that next step because it does take a certain person to be a regional. Like you can't just assume everybody's gonna take that step and be successful. I think.
Absolutely. And, my regional, he's fantastic. We just went through our 2024 3-day freeze out in Texas. So, it was a fun time. And, I'm calling him for, my needs and what I need support with, but he also has 5 other people calling him, and being able to just be a solid support system for all of your people. I think it takes a very special kind of person. And when I grow up, I want to be a Tony. I want to be my regional.
Yeah. No, that's great. And it's good that you have a good example of a person that's kind of living that out because you're right. Each community, each person, just like being a property management, being the regional over those different properties, you're also now not only the management people, but the people that live there, you're also kind of helping navigate and manage too. So that just means a whole bigger world that you're a part of. Yeah, no, that is true for sure. Well, thanks for sharing about that, and I really hope that I the more we allow people to share their stories, the more we speak about the fact there is opportunity. I hope people realize that because you're right. Even to the extent if you want to go to the supplier side, here we are. Come work with me.
Right.
I'll find a place for you. So
Well, and you got to think, just at each level, the work that you do is so much different, and I compare it back to whenever I was a leasing agent. I just had to smile, answer the phones, and take people to their apartments and say, "This is going to be your new home," right? And
yeah,
then you kind of roll into that assistant manager side, and a lot of it is focused on like the people, like the resident management and community, and making sure that things are flowing well. You tap into delinquency and you start getting experience with these reports, and then you go to the property management side and it's like, oh, no. Just kidding. But it's just so different at each level. And you may not, I'll be honest, this is between you and me, but I wasn't the best leasing agent at first. That wasn't my strongest suit. I was much better with the financials and the project management and being able to multitask on several different things going on at the same time. But you had to start there to get out of that. You have to start and have that experience before you can move up from it.
hmm yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing about that because I think the things that you've shared about being innovative through your idea that got you the award. I mean, and just problem solving, keeping things simple, keeping things, um, having your head on the next places you want to go, developing yourself, and getting ready for the next thing that you're going to do. It's all important, and I can see that you've done it and you're doing it, and it's great. It's a great example for other people because some people will say, "I'm too young to make that step or to move into that next role." But that's not even the case. Like you just got to be motivated for yourself, right?
It's if you're young, why not take the next step?
Yeah,
What's the worst that can happen? And that again, you may fail. Sure, doesn't everybody? But are you willing to fail forward? That's the question you have to ask yourself.
right. Yep. Failure and making mistakes is just an opportunity to learn. So I think as
Absolutely.
long as long as you're willing to learn from that mistake or that situation, then you're just taking a step forward closer to your end goal, right? All right. So the other thing that you were super passionate about, and I think have come to realize in your time in property management, is just the importance of developing the people in maintenance and how they need more training in order to keep up with the demands of the industry and the changes that are happening. So, what is it that you've observed about that, and what do you feel needs to happen to help you succeed for the long term?
Great question, Evan. And, maintenance is, I think it's a subject that's starting to come up a lot more in our industry. We are property management. One side of that, of course, is the financials and the people, but the other side of that is the maintenance side. You can't have a building and not have a maintenance, and not have a maintenance staff.
Yeah.
And just kind of seeing, again, working at Class C, B, and A properties, it's so different across the board that a facilities manager who is just killing it at a Class C asset may not do the same at a Class A asset, and vice versa. And, just kind of being so fresh in the industry, looking for different avenues and support systems that we have for our maintenance teams, I feel that I want to say, locking in those departments a little bit. If we are, if it's a coin and we're one half, what are we doing for the other half? What programs do we have that are developing the maintenance? What is their career path look like? You're going to tell me that, we start off as a groundskeeper, great, go to make ready tech, then maintenance tech, and then maintenance supervisor. And for a lot of areas, including mine, that's it. That is the end goal. And, being a supervisor in the maintenance, that it comes with its own set of responsibilities, being on call every other weekend, responding to floods in the middle of the night. I shouldn't use the F word, excuse me. Water intrusions
Yeah.
at 3 a.m. And, at some point, that quality of life isn't enough for somebody who is ambitious. And so sometimes I feel that our industry doesn't quite attract the right, the right people, because we can't offer anything more than just being a maintenance supervisor, and that's it.
Hmm. Yeah. Funny you said the F word. I've experienced the F word at an apartment community. Yeah, that was quite the experience, I will tell you.
Well, and and that's the thing is, we'll get the calls. I've been, like I said, I've only been in property management for 5 years, and um, I've I always have this rule. It's not really, it's just a core value that I will never ask my team to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. And so if there is a water extraction or cleanup, I'm going to be there with my facilities team. I just can't fathom just calling them and saying, hey, good luck, good luck cleaning that up. But just being there to support them, and they have a hard job. It's it's tough whenever it comes to water and addressing things with residents. And, I think it's really important that if you can just spend a day, a week with your maintenance team, I promise you, you're going to look at it completely different.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that goes for both sides. There's actually someone that was on as a guest about a year ago. He's on the maintenance side of things, or was for a long time, and then actually became an assistant manager of the community. Uh, and it was an eye-opening experience for him because he had his preconceived notions of what it meant to be a property manager compared to being a maintenance professional. And it's one of those things, until you walk in someone's shoes, you don't really
Mhm.
understand that actually they're both challenging. They're just
Yes.
different.
Yes, and that's being a property manager, you're overseeing the maintenance side, you're also overseeing the office side, and a lot of times you have to make decisions about the maintenance, and sometimes I haven't made the best informed decisions just for lack of knowledge, but
Mhm.
we've all been there. So one of the things that I did is if I have to make decisions about HVAC and ACs, I need to learn about it. So I went in 2020 and I got my EPA certification, because if I'm going to make decisions, I better know a thing or two about it.
Hey, that's actually really smart. I mean, I don't know there's that many managers that have learned, like, become educated on in a formal way about like the maintenance side of things. So that does make a lot of sense though, because that you're ultimately making budget decisions and
Mhm.
maintenance related decisions that impact the property and your NOI and all the things. And if you don't have a probably informed uh, way of making those decisions, you're going to get into the year and something drastic is going to happen, even though
Mhm.
somebody told you about it, but you're like, just we'll just do it when it happens. Well, that do it when it happens costs $100,000.
And it's those preconceived notions, which is why cross training is so important. Maintenance should be educated on what it means to, on budgets. They should be very aware of those, and then management should be knowledgeable about actual, repairs and how long it takes to turn apartments. Because, like I said, the turning an apartment on a Class C property is much different than a Class A property. I'll never forget the first time I walked in the door of a make ready and I looked around and said, "That's it? Now I understand how we can turn an apartment in 3 days." I completely understand. But for a garbage disposal, you think that it's a 5-10 minute task, and you wonder, why is it taking this person an hour? Well, these pipes have been rusted for 30 plus years. It's not as simple as you think it is, but sometimes it is. And so again, just the cross training and just being aware of what's happening in both worlds is very important. Set your meetings with your team and just make sure that there's open and clear communication across the board. And I think that will help you build a strong team and an even stronger community.
Absolutely. And kind of getting back to like what you were talking about regarding developing maintenance people,
Mhm.
um, what is it that you think could help them be successful long term? And the industry focusing on it and giving them the training. What kinds of trainings do you think that might be necessary?
Well, we're actually working on something out here with the Permian Basin Apartment Association. So we have actually um, partnered with our local college to start offering a maintenance readiness program. And what that is, it's a program where facilities team members and maintenance team members can go in and get hands-on training by means of a professional to have practice and build confidence before they go over to properties and have to try out these repairs for the first time. If I make a mistake in a budget, I can always reclass it later. But if a maintenance person makes a mistake on a heater, it could cost somebody their life. And I
Mm,
think it's important that we have this training hands-on. Not, YouTube is a powerful tool, but sometimes it doesn't compensate for having an in-person instructor. And so our college was very gracious to allow us, as used to their 6,000 square foot warehouse. We are getting donations for supplies, appliances, and others to build a mock apartment to have facilities members in our Permian Basin area come in, get this training hands-on through instructors, get their EPAs, their CPOs, have experience with electrical, and just also, build a career path for people um, coming out of high school, or just looking for something different, because you have to learn a lot, a little bit about a lot of things. And
mm,
if you go spend 5 years as an electrician, you're going to go be an electrician. If you go spend 5 years learning plumbing, you're going to go be a plumber. But in maintenance, we're the jacks of all trades.
Hmm.
you have to learn about all of these things. And so if we can narrow it down and just have this in-person training with instructors, I think that's going to change our industry. That should be a mandatory thing. It should be so common in colleges. You're going to have your HVAC class, electrical, plumbing, and your multifamily maintenance class.
No, it makes sense because you always see the pictures of the fix that somebody came up with. And it's like a bucket under a pipe, and it's all duct taped together, and then they patched the ceiling. And then now in the ceiling, you have a bucket catching a drip until that eventually, overflows. And then I literally saw this. So that's why I bring it up. But those are the types of things that when you don't have education, you're just like, I just got to figure out how to fix this. Well, here we go.
And a lot of times, you have to come up with a very quick solution. You can fix something, you can fix 10 things 80% correct, or you can fix one thing 100%. And a lot of times, you don't have the time to fix it 100% perfect. But, if we could just zone in on those important things and just really develop the maintenance and give them the knowledge, the opportunities, I think that's just going to make our industry better as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you guys, I'm assuming you have the credentials and such within your association, and you have the one for maintenance and you have the one for property managers and regionals and higher ups and such. So when they do the one for maintenance through the association, is this what you're saying? Is this a part of that track? Is to go over and get this kind of training?
Like in terms of track, can you what do you mean by that?
Well, so like, what is it? The NAA, different credentials you
Oh,
can get. Yeah.
got it. Yes. So originally, this was just going to be a just like like I don't want to say a badge of honor, but that's what I'm going to go with through the college. So you maybe get like a little degree showing that you passed the maintenance class. But then NAA has has a CAMT credential, which is just not
Right.
very common in the area that I'm in. CAMs, CAPS,
Okay.
those are just not very prevalent in my respective region. But with this program, because it is hands-on, this is something that would start preparing our students, our maintenance professionals, to take their CAMT and get certified. And once that happens, again, they can go anywhere in the country where that's recognized and prove to other people that they have those skills. And so while we're building our community, we're also helping them build their futures if they want to leave the Midland, Odessa area, which many have tried. Not many have been successful.
That's funny. So this is really like you're a young person or not, just somebody that's going to the community college, I'm assuming, um, and giving them this as a option to learn about this specifically to then be ready to then work in the industry of like being a maintenance professional.
Yes. So the original thought behind it was we wanted to develop our current maintenance professionals that are in the industry because again you learn from the person who came before you,
Mhm.
and our area is heavily impacted by the oil field, and so people don't really make maintenance here a career. They make it as a stepping point until they find their next oil field job. That's just the way that our area works down here. And so your supervisor Monday may not be your supervisor Wednesday, and you're just constantly having to relearn and train, and maybe you're not learning the correct information. Uh, and so, for that reason, it's important that we develop the people that are currently in our industry, but also get new people into our industry.
Yeah. No, yeah, and we need that. I think it's terrible that we always in schools have pushed people to go to college and we forget about all the other professions. Like we have a lot of jobs out there that need to be filled that take skill and pay well, so we need to train people accordingly.
Yeah. And
Everybody should go.
I will never knock getting a degree or,
Yeah.
getting educated in a certain field. But individuals that I've spoken with, they have gone to school for 6 years, got their master's in, let's say, education. They took their first teaching job and said, I hate it. And they
Yep.
looked for the
Peace.
first way out.
Yep.
They said my degree is actually sitting up in with dust in my closet. And, when you come into, and again, this industry, you can make it so far without the help of, without degrees and no student debt. And again, once you find what you're interested in, then absolutely go get more experience in it, go take extra classes with it. But I don't know, it really is good getting into a trade. You learn a skill. You're going to own a house one of these days. You'll be able to fix it up yourself, save a lot of money on contractors.
Yeah. I feel like, so I own a home, but every time I have a thing that needs to happen, I do exactly what you said. I look at YouTube, and for some things that's that's fine. But I probably should revisit some things I've done, like when you change outlets and stuff and you've never done it before, you should probably make sure that's right.
It's okay, give it the landlord special is what they call. I'm just kidding for everybody watching. We've definitely
Yeah.
seen some DIYs in our day. People will patch holes with like just random pieces of cardboard and paper. And so, I you know I think you're good on your end, Evan. It can't be worse than what we've seen.
Yeah. No, I hope not. I mean, I have to live here, so I'm not going to make any terrible decisions.
But when it comes to electricity, just make sure your breaker's off, please.
Yes. Yes. I have a story about that, but for another time. But yeah, I turned the breaker off. Somebody else turned it on while I was doing something. That was not fun. Anyways. Yeah, that was bad. But
Mm-mm.
anyways, well, thanks for sharing about that. I think it's super important that we do have a focus on maintenance. I am in full agreement, and I think the maintenance professionals, technicians, supervisors are all super important for our industry. They are a lot of times, once you become a resident, that might be the only people you regularly see on site at the community, because you have maintenance requests and different things, and they're coming into your home. And otherwise, unless you have a reason to go to the office, you pay your rent, do all the things online. Like, why do you ever got to go in the office necessarily? So um, maintenance folks are super important people.
Absolutely. They know my facilities team, they know all of their residents. They know their residents' pets' names. They know their kids and their birthdays. And they end up talking with them throughout the day, throughout the property, because they see them all of the time. And, if they're happy, if your maintenance team is happy and not stressed out, then they're going to have great conversations with your residents. That's going to build that retention. I like to think of, as a property manager, I'm just kind of behind the scenes. And if I can take care of my team, they're going to take care of our residents.
Absolutely.
It's a
Yep.
very simple model that we have.
Yep. No, I think it's good. Good stuff. Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for being the guest today, being a boss, and again, just showing how much grit you're putting into what you're doing and your pursuit of your goals and wanting to make it to the regional manager and beyond. I'm sure and hope that we can stay in contact, and I can hear your story in just a few years and where you're at, because I know you're going to go places, and I look forward to following your story in that way. So thank you so much for being boss number 74 today, and just being a boss yourself. And so thank you again for being here today.
Well, Evan, again, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for, letting me be on this episode. It really means a lot to me to be able to share my story with others, and, just, coming up in this industry. I don't know where it's going to take me in the next 5 years. I'm not going to make plans, but I'm going to make goals. And I just hope that I get to take some people with me along the ride. And again, just thank you for being you. Thank you for having me on here, and we will definitely stay in touch.
Absolutely. Well, just like she took a chance and has taken chances, and she jumped on live here on the internet for all to see, you too can do that. So if you are a boss in your role, whatever that role is, whether that's a community manager, a leasing agent, maintenance supervisor, a maintenance tech, a regional or above, or whatever your role is, and you're a boss, I want to know you. I want to tell your story. So reach out to me, and you can be doing just like Ashley and jumping on Boss Talks. So thanks for watching, everybody, and participating. We look forward to seeing you next week, Wednesday, when we do this again live here on internet. So it's been Boss Talks. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.